Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy, Josh Fan here of ShowMeFootball.com, back with yet another Kansas City Chiefs related video. And on today's video, I wanted to discuss Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the Kansas City Chiefs running back. I know there's been a lot of chatter about Clyde Edwards-Helaire following the Kansas City Chiefs season opener against the Cleveland Browns. He didn't have a great game, and it's been a big discussion among Chiefs fans. Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire the guy that everyone thought he once was? We came into this season with a brand new offensive line, and Clyde finally got a real offseason under his belt. Everyone thought he'd be coming out ready to roll. He's going to have a big year. And I want to preface with what I'm about to say about Clyde look, it's still early in the season. A lot can change. The offensive line is going to get better. We'll discuss that more later in the video, but the first game of the season is not going to be an indictment on Clyde, but it is a discussion that I wanted to have. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire's season was not off to a great start against the Cleveland Browns. It's worth mentioning, though, that the Cleveland Browns defense is one of the better defenses in the league, and their defensive line features a lot of talent. Jadeveon Clowney, despite what people say about him, I know a lot of Chiefs fans were very low on him, but he's still someone that gets a lot of pressure. He's one of the best run-defending defensive ends in the league still. You saw that in last Sunday's game. You got Myles Garrett on the other side, Malik Jackson. So this is a stacked-up squad on defense for the Cleveland Browns. But like I said, you revamped the O-line this offseason. I thought the run blocking looked fairly decent, a lot better than it did last year at times. And there were some holes that opened up for Clyde, but despite that, he missed a lot of those holes. He had 14 attempts for 43 yards, which is good for a 3.1 yards per carry average, which is not great. And when people excuse that by pointing to the Browns' defense, again, yeah, they do have a great defense, and you have to acknowledge that, but isn't this the whole reason that the Chiefs, overhauled their entire offensive line and spent a first-round pick on a running back last year in Clyde Edwards-Helaire so they could run the ball effectively? All these moves that the Chiefs have made over the past two off seasons would indicate to you that they want to run the ball more effectively. You don't address running back in the first round if that's not something you're serious about. You don't you don't do a complete overhaul of the entire offensive line if you don't have that in the back of your mind. And yes, a lot of why they did that with the offensive line was because they wanted to protect Patrick Mahomes, but it's also because of the former, that they wanted to run the ball better and take pressure off Mahomes and the passing game and become a more dynamic offense. And we just didn't see that this past Sunday. Again, really early in the season, only the first game. You got three rookies on one side of the line, so I can understand that. But again, looking at the Browns game, there were holes that opened up for Clyde. His vision looked very below average to me. There were openings for him. There was a picture going around on Twitter where Orlando Brown and Joe Thuney on the left side opened up a perfect hole for Clyde, and he had all this space in front of him, and the run went for like 2 yards. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description, but it was like, you got to take what's in front of you there, Clyde. And I was just disappointed in the running game altogether. I was also disappointed we didn't see more of Jerick McKinnon and Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams is also a guy who had success against the Browns last year in the playoffs because he does hit those holes particularly well. Even if it's not that big, he will take what's in front of him and he will just run right through it. And that's what I like about Darrell. It's funny, they call him Darrell the Barrel. But going back to what I was saying, I was disappointed in the rushing game. There were times where the blocking wasn't all that great and Clyde got swallowed up and it wasn't really his fault. But then there's these other times where there's these just 1 or 2 yard runs for Clyde over and over again. And this happened a lot last year. And it's a lot of times on those first and second runs from Andy Reid, first and second down runs. And they just go for like 1 or 2 yards. And it's like, I'm sitting there thinking it got to a point in the game. It's like, geez, running the ball is just a waste of a down at this point because you're barely getting any chunk plays by running the ball. And Clyde, for me, and this is one of my criticisms I've always had since he's entered the NFL, is that he does not have the power to, create something out of nothing. Like, how often have we seen Clyde make something out of nothing? And I heard Carrington Harrison, my guy at 610 Sports Radio, talking about this yesterday on The Drive. He was talking about, at some point, we got to see Clyde be that special talent at running back that you can justify taking in the first round. A lot of these other running backs, and we saw it with Kareem Hunt too, who the Chiefs got in the third round a few years ago before they released him. making something out of nothing and making a 2 or 3 yard run into a 6 or 7 yard run. We just don't see that from Clyde very often. And a lot of that judgment from me comes from last year when the run blocking, again, was not great. I mean, we've said it over and over again. Everyone knows the Chiefs' run blocking last year on the offensive line wasn't great. But when you see some of the other running backs that are taken in the first round historically, they usually overcome bad blocking. And to me, Clyde hasn't really overcome bad blocking enough for me to be all that impressed with him. And maybe that's asking too much. And again, run blocking last year on the Chiefs, not great at all. Pretty bad. And I'm not asking Clyde to break every single tackle and make every run a 20-yard run. But what makes a lot of these running backs great, again, is to make something out of nothing and to overcome bad offensive line play enough that, they flash and you go, man, this guy, when he gets an offensive line, he's going to be really good. To me, just Clyde never popped like that. He had some coming out games last year, but again, and I got this statistic from Carrington Harrison at 610 Sports Radio, who does great work. You should listen to his show, The Drive. It's on every day of the week from 2 to 6 p.m. Go check it out. But he brought this up some time ago. Last year, Clyde Edwards-Helaire only had 3 games of 75 rushing yards or more. Let's go over those 3 games. First of which coming against the Houston Texans as a season opener. 25 attempts for 138 yards and a touchdown. Those are good numbers, but guess where the Houston Texans ranked in run defense last year? Dead last, 32, 160 yards per game on the ground given up on average. Second game on that list is when the Chiefs played the Buffalo Bills last year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 26 attempts for 161 rushing yards. Again, good game, but the Bills ranked 20th in rush defense, and in that game, they were without starting linebacker Matt Milano, who is a stud for that defense. And the third and final game on that list is when Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 14 attempts for 79 yards against the New Orleans Saints. And that one, there's not much I can say. New Orleans was a very good run defense last year. Clyde had a good game. That was a game in which he got hurt. If he did not get hurt, he could have went for over 100 yards. So that I will give to Clyde. But besides that, I just don't know where we saw the signature games from Clyde Edwards-Helaire that really made you go, man, this guy has a, perennial Pro Bowler type of career ahead of him. I do think Clyde is a talented running back. I think he's a good running back. He has traits that you would want in a running back. He's very elusive. He has good center of gravity, but he definitely has shortcomings too. But I don't think Clyde is a great running back. I don't think he has elite traits, things that he does that would warrant taking him in the first round. I also saw a comparison on the timeline yesterday from Arrowhead Live, and I've gotten into it with Arrowhead Live and stuff before in the past, but he compared Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Derrick Henry, and when Derrick Henry was a rookie compared to Clyde Edwards-Helaire's rookie year, and talked about how Derrick Henry started out slow and then slowly became the elite running back that he is today. And guys, come on, that's just you cannot compare Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Derrick Henry. First of all, when you look at their first years, Derrick Henry had 110 attempts. Meanwhile, Clyde had 181 attempts, and they tried to make him the bell cow back. Meanwhile, Derrick Henry was playing behind DeMarco Murray, and Derrick Henry also has those elite traits that I'm talking about. He has very good acceleration, great speed of someone his size. He's a powerful running back. He's super strong. Like, Derrick Henry is just a monster in every way. But Clyde, that's not really his game. He's not going to power through you and just feast on a defense like Derrick Henry does. He doesn't have that ability to take over a game to me. Comparing those two is just it's just irresponsible, especially considering Derrick Henry's career is pretty much an outlier for running backs. I mean, Clyde can break tackles and whatnot too, and he's a very slippery player, but when you gang tackle him and it's one of those situations where you're asking him to run it up the middle like Andy Reid calls a lot and just power through and break through, he doesn't do it a ton. A lot of those runs go for like 1 or 2 yards that I was talking about, and it's just very underwhelming play. I feel like we've seen from him since he's been in Kansas City. You haven't had a lot of those, wow moments from him. He only has like 2 or 3 runs of 20 plus yards or more in his career so far. And for a guy that's already undersized, he has very underwhelming speed. So you're not really going to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire make house calls very often, or really ever. Then there's the receiving game, another aspect that people were excited about. coming out of college. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was featured a lot in the passing game at LSU, and many saw him as a great route runner out of the backfield, very sure-handed running back who could be a factor in the passing game. He just hasn't been that yet for whatever reason, and he still really wasn't against the Browns. He had 3 catches for 29 yards. He was a safety valve, though. He came up big a couple times and got some first downs, I thought. But again, it's just what I always go back to is what does he do that most other league average running backs can't do? To me, we haven't seen a whole lot from him that tells you that he can do all those things that justifies the first round draft status. But yeah, that's all I got for today. I wanted to go on a quick rant about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know he's been a hot topic recently, but it is interesting how, again, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is another one of those players that I just never saw it with him, what the hype was with him, and then more fans slowly start to come to my side when it comes to that player. It's just funny how some of those things work. Not that I'm trying to take a victory lap or anything, because again, Clyde Edwards-Helaire could still have a big year. One game at the beginning of the year with a brand new offensive line, you can't make a total complete judgment off of that. So I want to be fair, but let me know what you guys think. Are you concerned about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and his progression, or do you think we have nothing to worry about and Clyde Edwards-Helaire will end up breaking out this year? Let me know in the comments. Would love to hear from you guys. All that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and you check out my work on www.showmefootball.com and some of my work on kckingdom.com. Peace.